Well, today saw the Prime Minister and her senior ministers fan out across the media to sell Wayne Swan's budget and try to resurrect the government's dismal numbers in the polls. But as the government sought to keep the focus on the surplus and sweeteners announced last night, the opposition continued to train their sights on the scandal surrounding the former Labor member Craig Thomson. Political correspondent Tom Eagleton reports from Canberra.
With a surplus on the books, if not yet in the bank account, during a blur of media interviews, the Prime Minister's been emphasising the government's financial discipline and political strength not to back away from a promise.
What we've done instead is swum strongly against the tide and delivered a budget surplus.
A surplus that is so small it's almost invisible to the naked eye. That's how small it is, and it's just a forecast.
There were spends too, targeted at lower income voters, but the Prime Minister says that's not inconsistent with the message of budget discipline.
The money to help families is necessary because so many families are struggling. We are doing both.
Good to see you. How are you? Yeah.
But when it comes to just about any economic issue, the opposition leader's nothing if not consistent.
Last night's budget was a thinly disguised attempt to anaesthetise the carbon tax pain, but the public aren't buying it.
The Coalition opposed one budget measure passed today in the lower house, the school kids bonus that'll see cheques mailed out to parents within weeks.
It's just another cash payment, and it's typical of this government that it would disguise a cash splash as something completely different. I mean, this school kids bonus doesn't have to be spent on school. No. I mean, you can go and blow it at the club on the pokies and things like that if you want to. So.
That criticism had a familiar ring about it to some, namely comments made about the baby bonus introduced by the Coalition.
How is that any different to the baby bonus, for example?
Well, look, they just are. The baby bonus was an important element in the Howard government's policy.
You've been critical of the school's bonus. What's the difference between the baby bonus that you introduced and the school's bonus?
Oh, well, there's a vast difference.
What?
You have to have a baby.
Well, apparently the shadow treasurer doesn't know. Babies grow into school children. That's what happens. They grow into school children. And then you've got the costs of sending the kids to school. How out of touch can these people be?
But the opposition says it's the Prime Minister that's out of touch, accusing her of protecting embattled former Labor MP Craig Thomson.
If he wants to get into a debate about who stands up for working families in this parliament and who stands up for a privileged few, no better day to have it than today.
The opposition cut question time short again today to move a motion to force Mr Thomson, who's facing allegations he misused union money on prostitutes and election expenses, to make a statement to Parliament.
Is he one of the privileged few that the Prime Minister is standing up for, or is he one of the battlers? One of the battlers in the HSU, one of the 77,000 average members of the HSU who get paid something like $500 a week, Madam Deputy Speaker, while this member for Dobell raked in $500,000 of HSU members' money.
The motion failed, but Mr Thomson volunteered to make a statement anyway, just not yet.
It's a week where families around Australia are looking at what this government could do, and that, quite frankly, is what this week should be spent for. But I do indicate to Parliament that I do intend to make a statement in the next sitting week of Parliament.
Craig Thomson continues to deny the allegations made against him.
Do you accept the fact that the allegations, even just by their airing, may have ended your political career, that you may not in fact be facing the voters of your electorate at the next election?
Well, let's just see where we end up in terms of these issues. If there was an election call today, then you're in a very difficult situation about standing. But there's a long time to the next election.
And so after the briefest of budget week pauses, it's back to business as usual here in Parliament, with the clock ticking on Julia Gillard's pledge to win over more voters. Tom Eagleton, Late Line.